One of the things that we have to deal with as managers is if and or how are we going to manage our buck population. The very first thing that I need to say is, you know what? If you don't want to manage bucks, don't do it. Don't let anybody tell you that you have to manage for age. The key is to go out there and have fun. That is the primary reason we're doing all of this stuff, is to actually enjoy hunting. If you've got a young buck that's coming through that's tripping your trigger that you want to kill, by all means kill the darn thing. Now, do not let anybody impose their will and wishes on you when it comes to how you should manage your buck herd. If you want to manage it, manage it. If you don't, don't. But if you do, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One, you are not going to impact genetics in any kind of a significant manner whatsoever. There's such a thing called yearling buck dispersal. That means at either a half-year-old or a year and a half old, that yearling buck, that young buck, it gets kicked out by mom. Mom goes ahead and harasses it until it disperses. It's going to go ahead and disperse anywhere from an average of 1 to 5 to 10 miles away. Okay. So, you know what? The bucks that you're hunting, the mature bucks you're hunting, very, very, very high odds that it had nothing to do with your property whatsoever. It actually had to do with a neighbor 5 miles down the road. The other thing to keep in mind is that the doe is half the equation. Her genetics goes ahead and plays in every bit as much as the buck does that's breeding her when it comes to producing antlers. Controlling genetics, it just does not work in the wild. That's not a reason you shouldn't manage your bucks though, because what you can do is you can manage the standing stock of bucks on that property. Bucks are very much, quite frankly, they're very much like inner city gangs. That mature buck, he stakes out his turf. Another mature buck stakes out his turf over there. Another mature buck stakes out his turf here. You cannot stockpile bucks. You can only hold X number of bucks on a property. That number is going to vary. A lot of our habitat improvements, we're going ahead and we're quartering up properties to try to offer a buck everything he wants in 4 spots on that 80-acre property instead of just 1. That's going to help increase the number of bucks you can hold on that land, but there is a cap. Because of that, once your management really starts humming along, you are going to produce more mature bucks than your property can handle. So kill those inferior ones. So kill those bucks with the antler characteristics that aren't what you're after. By doing that, no, you're not shaping genetics, but what you are doing is you're making a hole for that 2.5-year-old buck that has everything you want. So go ahead, take out those, starting at 3.5 years old, take out those bucks that are not as desirable to you. Leave the ones that are, because that way, the young ones, leave the young ones that are. So that way you have an assembly line of young bucks coming up with the traits you want. No, it does not impact genetics, but it sure does impact the quality of bucks that you want to hunt. Another thing that you have to factor into this stuff is your property size. If you're dealing, it's going to take an awful special 40 in order to be able to manage for bucks. Once you get bigger than that, now you can actually start to try to manipulate the standing stock a little bit more. But if you've got a 40 and you're surrounded by meat hunters, you darn right you're going to do everything to draw these bucks into your property as you possibly can and get them to spend as much time there as possible. But I'm telling you flat out, you're going to lose some. Heck, I've managed properties that are as large as 4,000 acres. And you know what? I lose bucks on there. What we're trying to do is we're trying to minimize the losses, but be realistic. Be realistic and realize that you are going to lose bucks that you want to save, and do not let it drive you nuts. The stuff is supposed to be fun after all. So the choice is ultimately up to you whether or not you want to try to manage bucks. Do what you enjoy. If you are going to try to manage them, what I suggest doing is starting at 3.5 years old, taking out the bucks that are undesirable to you as a hunter, along with the ones that you want to shoot. Grown Big is brought to you by Wildlife Research Center, the gold standard. Reconyx, see what you've been missing. Antler King, bigger bucks, healthier deer. Heater Bodysuit, you stay warm or your money back. Food Plots for Deer, planning your habitat improvements and improving your hunting. Furminator, the best food plot implement on earth. Remington, America's oldest gun maker. Nomad, I hunt, therefore I am. Okay. By taking that approach, you manipulate the standing stock. But keep in mind, you have to be realistic about this stuff. You are not going to raise 10 mature bucks on a 40-acre piece of ground. It just plain isn't going to happen.